Hey, everybody. Welcome into the Thinking Crypto podcast, your home for cryptocurrency news and interviews. On your way in, please hit that subscribe button as well as the thumbs up button and leave a comment below. If you're listening on a podcast platform such as Spotify or Apple, please leave a 5-star rating and review. Folks, we got some big news, and that is a $438 billion asset manager, Susquehanna, buys $1.3 billion in Bitcoin ETFs. Folks, the institutions are buying these ETFs, and of course, it makes it very easy for them to do it. It's coming through trusted brands and names that they know, such as BlackRock, Fidelity, and so forth. And as the filings with the SEC are being revealed in the coming weeks and months, you're going to see who those buyers were of the big, massive run-up that we had at the beginning of the year into March, where Bitcoin hit new all-time highs. So that's going to be very revealing and also very bullish, right? We've often talked about game theory, and that if one firm sees the other firm is buying a bunch of Bitcoin ETFs, they're going to hop off the fence and start buying as well. So let me give you some details here. In the latest big name transaction around Bitcoin, $438 billion asset manager Susquehanna has revealed it purchased $1.3 billion worth of spot Bitcoin ETFs. Today, Susquehanna disclosed its Bitcoin ETF portfolio in a 13F SEC filing spread across multiple ETFs. So this is fascinating. They bought the whole gambit. They bought a little bit of everything. For example, Grayscale, Fidelity, BlackRock, ARK, Bitwise, Valkyrie, Invesco, VanEck, and WisdomTree. Interesting strategy. And I get it. They don't want to put all their eggs in one basket. And of course, it's probably based on maybe what their clients want. If some clients prefer Fidelity or VanEck or whatever it may be, they're probably going that way and allocating accordingly. But folks, it's incredible what we're seeing. And remember, the trading houses are not here. Morgan Stanley, UBS, and so forth. James Seifert of Bloomberg and I spoke about this in our interview, which I published 5 days ago. So be sure to check out that interview. The herd for the Bitcoin ETF buying and trading is not here yet. Yes, I know that seems hard to believe, but they're not here yet. They're in the process of getting themselves set up. And, it takes time, right? They have to go through compliance and all the checks and all the red tape and so forth, right? They'll get there. Guys, it's coming. And remember that there's also the educational and awareness campaign that is taking place with the issuers going out to wealth managers and RIAs. So the diverse set of investments in Bitcoin ETFs is an interesting note. However, it only grows optimism in the world's leading cryptocurrency nonetheless. Susquehanna International is one of the largest proprietary trading firms in the world. The firm works in trading essentially all listed financial products and asset classes with a focus on derivatives and handles millions of transactions on exchanges around the world every day. And of course, they are getting involved in crypto. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's more to come. Very bullish news here. Now, guys, scumbag regulator Gary Gensler went on Squawk Box today to talk about his same old bullshit talking points. I'm not even going to play the full clip for you, but I'm going to highlight some of the takeaways because I don't even want to hear this guy's voice. He's annoying. He's a clown. Like I said, a scumbag regulator. He's been breaking the law. And I think the timing of the Robinhood Wells notice news is because Congress is about to repeal the SAB 121 rule, which the U.S. Government Accountability Office found unlawful, and it was provided by the SEC. I'll play the clip of what Tom Emmer had to say about that. But he was interviewed by Andrew Ross Sorkin, and he was, of course, asked about if Ethereum is a security or not and all the things that have been going on. Now, Andrew didn't really grill him on all the court failures and being sanctioned and so forth, but I wish he did. But, usually probably Gary would have walked out, right? Because he doesn't want to talk about that. He wants to paint the narrative that he wants to. So Paul Grewal, Chief Legal Officer at Coinbase, highlighted the following of what Gary had to say. I quote, "Many of these tokens are securities under the law of the land as interpreted by the U.S. Supreme Court, so we follow that law." Paul said, "Please stop misleading the market. Tokens are not securities, their pleadings notwithstanding. Your own attorneys have admitted this in the court." So, of course, the SEC attorneys have said this. So Gensler and the SEC are even divided among themselves. We know Hester Peirce and Mark Ueda have called out the SEC and their unlawful activities. And the way they've been treating the market and the industry, not to mention their lawyers, when put before the judge to answer factual questions, they have to say, well, yeah, these are not securities, right? And then, but they try to present it as though it is. So Gary's lying out his teeth here. He's a big time scumbag regulator controlled by Elizabeth Warren, and both of them are controlled by the banking incumbents who are trying to slow this down, guys. It's pathetic. Our tax dollars are being used for this type of nonsense, but this is why we got to fight. This is why we got to hold them accountable, tweet out the truth, the facts, call up your representatives, and we'll continue to protest on social media and in different ways. It is making an impact because we're seeing a lot of crypto companies are starting to rally together, sue the SEC, fight back, punching back at the bully, and they're lobbying politicians. And we're seeing the impact of pro-crypto candidates winning in the election. So big things are coming. We got to keep fighting. Don't get me wrong. We are in for a fight. Obviously, the SEC issued a Wells notice against Robinhood, but this is just Gary's silly attempt at trying to make things stick. Here's what William Mugayar, if I'm saying that right, he's an author of the Business Blockchain and Token Summit producer, said, Gary Gensler told Squawk Box and Andrew Ross Sorkin he would rather not talk about crypto, saying it's a small part of the overall capital markets and doesn't deserve the attention it's getting. Gensler asked, where are the financial reports for these crypto tokens? Here's what William said. He doesn't understand crypto clearly, and he's going after the wrong bad guys. He continues being the villain of crypto, not the right cop. So I think a lot of people, even in the mainstream, are recognizing this. Like, you're treating this industry unfairly. You have the most enforcement actions coming against the crypto industry, yet you're saying it's a small part of the capital markets. Why does it deserve so much attention? It's because you're a clown on puppet strings blocking the industry. And when you lose in court, it's a big deal. You're getting called arbitrary and capricious. You're getting sanctioned by the judges in different cases. So this guy, he's trying to downplay it, but we're not going to downplay it. We're going to amplify the facts. Here, Cody Carbone of the Chamber of Digital Commerce says regarding this video, how are we feeling, U.S. taxpayers? Crypto is too small for Gensler to discuss publicly, but large enough that the SEC has allocated a huge chunk of its enforcement resources. Feel protected, investors, he asked. And we got Tom Emmer spoke out about the Robinhood Wells notice, saying these Wells notices seem to be Gary Gensler's desperate last-ditch attempts to intimidate and antagonize digital asset innovators. Now, there was a clip of him talking about the House looking to repeal SAB 121, which is that custody rule which prevents many of the banks from custodying Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And let me play the clip for you so you can hear directly from Tom Emmer.
Chairman Gary Gensler's tenure at the SEC has been characterized by regulatory hypocrisy, inconsistency, and incompetence. The Securities and Exchange Commission's Staff Accounting Bulletin 121, commonly known as SAB 121, is just one example of Chair Gensler's egregious attempts to expand the SEC's authority and his clear bias toward the digital asset ecosystem. More than 2 years ago, the SEC disguised this illegal rule as guidance, circumventing Congress and public input so they could prevent banks from safeguarding consumer-owned digital assets. However, this rule isn't just overreaching and illegal, it violates the SEC's statutory mission. First, SAB 121 introduces more unnecessary and avoidable concentration risk into the digital asset ecosystem, making our markets less fair, less orderly, and less efficient. Second, it weakens investor protections by barring Americans from using the established banking infrastructure to custody their digital assets, which leaves Americans' assets more vulnerable if a custodian becomes insolvent. And third, this rule hampers capital formation and global competitiveness as foreign banks already have the ability to compete in crypto markets while our banks cannot. The SEC's statutory mission is to protect investors, facilitate capital formation, and maintain fair, orderly, and efficient markets. Chairman Gensler is violating all three of these with his illegal SAB 121 rule. Later this week, House Republicans, we're going to do our job to provide oversight and accountability to the SEC by passing Congressman Mike Flood's resolution so that this illegal and harmful rule ceases to be in effect. I hope that our colleagues on the other side of the aisle will join us as we work to ensure the digital asset ecosystem can thrive right here in the United States. And I turn it over to our leader, Steve Scalise.
So there you have it. And this is important because they are in the process of voting. It made it through the first round. It has to go to the floor for the full repeal, but that will be a big deal. That's another big loss for the SEC because it got called unlawful by the U.S. Government Accountability Office. So this would be a big win. It's another item on the list that Gary Gensler has lost out on. Now, the other big issue with the SEC is that they still have the Ripple lawsuit, which has not been resolved. And of course, Ripple took the lion's share of the victory by getting the ruling that XRP intrinsically is not a security and secondary market sales of the asset are not securities. Now, we got some news here that the SEC has filed its redacted remedies reply brief and supporting exhibits. So what does this mean? Well, attorney Jeremy Hogan weighed in and said the Ripple versus SEC briefs are finished. And I think the SEC went out with a whimper here. It didn't even try to attack ODL sales, which is on-demand liquidity, just noting that Ripple was trying to relitigate the issue, which it is, and it brought nothing new on damages, just waiting for the judge now. So I've been on record saying that I believe Ripple will have to pay a small fine here, but the SEC is not going to get what it wants, like $2 billion, right? And it's going to be a small victory, but Ripple came away with the lion's share. Obviously, that the asset is not a security and secondary market sales are not securities, which is great for the entire industry, not just Ripple and XRP. And many of these different token projects and exchanges can use the ruling as case law. And many crypto lawyers in the industry are speaking out. They're saying things like the SEC is abusing the Wells process as part of a carpet bombing campaign against crypto. You can say that again, right? This is what it's about, guys. He's throwing as much as he can against the wall, but he's going to lose, ultimately lose. We are in the then they fight you phase, and the election's coming up. Gary's not going to be here for a long time. And the disruptive technology, they can't stop it. They're going to try to slow it down, but they can't stop it. And remember, there's two things happening in parallel here. The crypto startups and small companies are getting sued, Coinbase. And when I say small, I mean relative to, Wall Street firms like Fidelity and BlackRock. They're getting sued. The small ones are getting sued, but notice Wall Street's coming in, issuing ETFs, filing for Ethereum ETF, tokenization, custodying funds and reserves for different crypto assets. So clearly two things happening here on this spectrum. How can they both be happening at the same time? Why isn't BlackRock and Fidelity and these guys getting Wells notices? Right? Do I even need to go further and explain that? That's the game that's being played here. Now, I'm in contact with Mark Fagel. Many of you know him. He's a former SEC official. He's usually on Twitter talking about crypto and much more. And we're talking about setting up an interview. So I want to give you guys heads up about that for those of you who know about Mark Fagel. And I want to get his thoughts. I've interviewed Hester Peirce, Joe Grunfus, and SEC official Joe Hall. So it would be great to get Mark's take on what's happening right now because he has been outspoken. And, I'll try to have a fair conversation with him because there's certain things I don't agree with him on, and there's certain things I do. So we'll see how this conversation goes, but stay tuned. I'll let you guys know when it's confirmed, and we can compile some questions that you all may have that I can talk to him about. Now, folks, quick word from our sponsor, and that is Uphold. Uphold is one of the top crypto platforms out there where you can buy Bitcoin and all the top altcoins, including XRP, Ethereum, Cardano, and much more. They have 260 plus cryptocurrencies. And best of all, guys, they are fully reserved. They have transparency reports. You can go review it. They don't commingle or lend out your funds. You can also trade precious metals on this platform, such as gold, silver, palladium, and platinum. And they have a great new product called Vault, which helps you to back up your private keys. It splits it up into 3 categories where they keep one part of it, but you still control your funds. So if you ever lose any of your private keys, they are there to help you out. They currently support Bitcoin and XRP. So it's a great product to check out to give you peace of mind. If you are, feeling uncomfortable with your self-custody and you want just that extra layer of security, once again, you still control your funds. They cannot move your funds or touch it, but they are backing up your private keys and so forth. So be sure to check out Uphold. Link will be in the description. Now, guys, we got some interesting news coming from Standard Chartered Bank. They are saying if Donald Trump was to win the presidential election against Biden, it would be positive for Bitcoin and crypto. Trump re-election may catapult Bitcoin, Standard Chartered says. Now, this is highly speculative, but I think there's some truth behind it, but they're, taking it to the next level, embellishing a bit too much. But we know Trump has warmed up to crypto, I think, because of Vivek Ramaswamy coming on his team, telling him about CBDCs and crypto and Bitcoin. He's warmed up to it. We know his campaign has issued NFTs, Bitcoin ordinals, and much more. So he's definitely done a 180 on crypto versus when he was president and tweeting out that he's not a fan of it and so forth. The man is now building on it, right? And look, he may never come out and say, Bitcoin is great and things like that, because that would be an incredible endorsement and a very impact on the way the markets may move. So I don't think he will want to do that, but I think actions speak louder than words here, where he's using the technology, and that's pretty big. And he's talked about accepting Bitcoin as payments and so forth for the NFTs and shoes and all that. Once again, this is not an endorsement of Trump. I try to be neutral here when I report news like this, whether it's about Biden or Trump, but they're not wrong here. They're embellishing a bit, but they're not wrong here. Now, guys, we continue to see massive amounts of capital flowing into the crypto market. And here, Bloomberg Crypto is reporting that crypto startups are putting valuations in the fast lane with an aggressive form of fundraising that reflects the digital asset industry's recovery, as well as a desire among venture funds to put money to work. So I think a couple of things. One, the bull market's here. The ETFs have been approved. We are clearly in an uptrend. So more capital is going to come in. Two, I think markets are starting to see the signal, or what's down the road, where the Fed will eventually cut rates, that we have hit the peak of our quantitative tightening cycle. Yes, the Fed has not cut yet, but they have paused. And it's better than when you are in a run up and they keep raising rates, right? That's where you want to be cautious and you're like, when is this thing going to top out? It's all about the markets anticipating what's going to come next. And markets are forward looking, as I've often stated to you guys. So they see maybe in the next year or so, and I think it's after the election, that the rates are going to get cut, which means we're going to go back to easy money cycle, right? The cost of capital is going to be cheaper. It's going to be back to money printing, quantitative easing. It's not going to happen overnight. There's a process to it. So the Fed is eventually going to get there. So markets are front running, in my opinion. I think that when they start cutting next year, we could see a correction for sure, like we have historically. I don't think it happens before the election, like I said in my newsletter earlier this year. Now, I could be wrong, and I think that we could see the blow off top this year, if not early 2025. Maybe they don't cut rates, in December after the election, but it comes in Q1, maybe February or March, and then, markets start going down. But nevertheless, I think these funds see what's on the horizon, cheaper capital, as well as the bull market running up. So now's the time to grab some equity, grab some coins, and then you can exit even later this year on some of those coins. So I think it makes sense. And Bloomberg and all these different firms are starting to recognize the VCs waking up and starting to inject more capital into the crypto market. So folks, that's the news. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to grab a copy of my book, Rethinking Crypto, The Crash of FTX and the Rise of Safer, Stronger Digital Assets, available in digital and paperback on Amazon, link in the description, guys. Grab a copy to support the podcast. Buy a copy for a friend or family member who wants to learn about crypto. It covers the ETF race, the regulatory battles with the SEC, Ripple, and much more. What does the future of crypto look like? Tokenization, NFTs, and it summarizes everything, guys. So I appreciate your support. Don't forget, I'll be at the DC Blockchain Summit on May 15th and 16th. You can grab some tickets and get a discount using the code ThinkingCrypto, link in the description. Guys, I'll be there for the summit and the Blockchain Education Day. Heads up, the summit is much more costly, but the Blockchain Education Days is the tickets are cheaper and you get to go on Capitol Hill. And that's what I'm excited about. So I'm looking forward to that. And hopefully I get to see some of you there. I'll be doing some podcasting, some vlogging, and much more. All right, guys, thank you for watching and listening, and I'll talk to you all later.